What like how long something lived after? Yeah.
It's stamped TP Tropen. It was meant to go out to North Africa, which is what actually happens to it. We know that this particular tank goes to from Naples to Benghazi in July of 1942. We know it was issued to the 8th Panzer Regiment, which is part of the 15th Panzer Division, in other words, Rommel's Africa Corps, fighting the British and Commonwealth forces in North Africa. We think it was captured at Alam Halfa, the battle there. And we got photographs of it being debombed out in North Africa by local labour, sent back to Britain for analysis, and pretty much in its entire lifespan it's been a runner. So there's film of this running way back at things like they used to have battle days down here up on the camp area at Gallows Hill, and this would appear in Rome. So it's a regular runner. Fingers crossed we keep this one going for a fair bit longer. Tropen means that they do things to it to make sure it can work in the hotter climates, obviously in North Africa. Just like this Tiger has got what they call the fecal air filters to suck in and clean the air of dust before it goes into the engine. Now the Panzer III dates back again tanks of the German military, even though Panzer IIs are built very much with the idea they might be used in combat. Panzer III, it's got an extra 20mm armour plate fitted across the front, just so you can see where the driver's cut out, where it's looking, so that thickens the armour there. So you've really now got about 50mm, 37mm of the standard anti-tank gun fitted. This is now, we've synced that up to the 5cm anti-tank gun. Again, crew ergonomics in all the British reports were highly praised. Commander in the top, got good visibility of what the other crew members are up to, and you've got a gunner and a loader in that turret, and 2 crew members down the front. The driver obviously, and the chap who's working the radio, and sometimes a battle machine gun. So the classic German tank of early war, you can see inside the museum. By the time they put this into production, the version that you're looking at here is put into production in 1944 because the Germans and the Russians have fought at places like Battle of Kursk. The Russians now realise they are going to have a more powerful. It's got Polish features on the turret. This particular one is one of 685 that was made in Poland. And many of these, again, are still going. And you may have seen on the news not that long ago, a couple of years ago, Putin actually bought back from Laos about 30 T-34s, 85s. They went on railway wagons, they did a parade all the way through. They stopped at stations on their way through Russia as they were going to Moscow. People turned up, there were ceremonies, etc. The T-34-85 is for the Russians the symbol of the Great Patriotic War. Just like in Britain we might say it's the Spitfire or the Hurricane, actually this is what the Russians look at in terms of their icon of World War II. Now the Hargo started production, or the design of it, in the early 1930s. This is the VMO. In the back of it there's a Mitsubishi diesel engine. It's one of the few tanks again in the 30s with diesel in. And again, very cramped. There's only one person in the turret. It's got a 3-man crew. Driver down the front, there's radio operator and also a machine gunner down there as well, squeezed in. And the interior was originally lined with asbestos. And that was to try and keep the heat down. From again, if it's working in tropical climates, or I say tropical, Far Eastern climates, Pacific Islands, etc., they lined it with asbestos with the idea that that was going to be heat protection. And of course we now know what problems asbestos cause. We're still removing some of our vehicles. But you can see there a relatively small vehicle. Now this particular vehicle was actually one of the ones left behind on one of the Pacific Islands. It was gathered together by American troops at the time, left there until it was recovered to Japan, and subsequently it's gone through a fairly major restoration process. And we're very fortunate to have it here so we can demonstrate it before ultimately we believe it's going to be returning to Japan to be shown off at the military museum there. There's a drive shaft and a casing going right down past the driver and our machine gun who sits next to him, and it separates the vehicle. And that was one of the criticisms the British had of it. They make some of these as well with something called a Bovington, a diesel engine as well, only over about 1,000. Most of them have the aeroplane engine in. And when they originally go into service, they end up with about 4 Browning machine guns on. Now, famously, when they were issued to the first British troops, were using them before the end of 1941 out in the Western Desert. One of the guys who takes it for a test drive comes back and he's asked, what does he think about it? And he comes back and he says it's a real one, it was reliable. It was something that tended to start on time. So all its faults tended to be overlooked, because if the blooming thing works, you know, you'll forgive it most things. So many of the British tanks at this time were mounting vehicles, light tanks. That's going to be the Light Mark 6B. We want cruiser tanks that are going to be for exploitation, in other words, speeding behind the enemy lines, doing the damage, but we're also going to have to break into those enemy lines first, like the First World War. And that means we're going to need what the British then decide to call infantry tanks. We start with the Matilda I, and then we go on to this fellow, the A12 Matilda II. And remarkably, we always criticise British tank design so often. Matilda is used very successfully in France, 1940. Most though are sadly lost. They are then used in North Africa. Again, operations like Operation Compass, where O'Connor's force defeats about 30,000 British soldiers with Matilda tanks, defeats 250,000 Italians, which causes Hitler to send out the Africa Corps to North Africa. And those early successes with the Matilda II tank led to this title, the Queen of the Desert. So many of very brave Italian anti-tank gunners, they just couldn't penetrate the armour. And what's so very brave is we always have this sort of mocking idea that the Italian army didn't do very well. Through drive shaft to the front where the gearbox is, and yet again you can see it's those sprocketed wheels in the front that are being driven by the engine, the only one. The wheels on the ground with that HVSS suspension system, they're just taking the weight of the vehicle, spreading it out over the track. The wheel at the rear is the one that's actually keeping that wider track. Again, the Americans, very clever, they go to the automotive industry instead of heavy steel industry, people like the train manufacturers, they go to Chrysler and they say, look, could you make large numbers, like we do cars, tanks, and basically very quickly the car actually comes back with designs, with the idea of how to So to protect where the ammunition was stored, and that was what was causing the fires, they weld extra plates of armour on the side. You can see that this tank has gone through the upgrade programme. Let's protect where the armour plate is. Where the ammunition is stored in the panniers on the side of the vehicle. What they did by the time of the Fury tank behind us, they started to become, well, a Formula 1 commentator armour. So it's a very effective gun they put on the vehicle. And it got speed with that 600 horsepower engine, good armour protection. They start issuing it to the troops, British tank units, start training with this around Brussels in the late autumn and winter of 1944, early into 45. The Germans then attacked in the Battle of the Bulge. And again, this idea about mature technology, about being used to things, they decided to reissue the Sherman tanks to most of the units. They took the Comets away because no one really wanted to go into action with a vehicle they weren't familiar with. So they took them away, reissued them with Shermans, and only issue these earlier in 1945 when they think it's safe to do so. So Comet tanks in British forces only see fighting really from March 1945 to the end of the war, really the Rhine crossing onwards. But a very successful tank was called the Type 59, and so I don't forget that. They've actually put T, if you look on the side, Type 59 on the side of the turret, just gives us a bit of a clue there. Now the Chinese copies of the Russian tank, all the instructions, all the dialogues are in English, because they realised that English was going to be no sense. What the Germans made when they were allowed to make a tank again for the first time, in 1955, the Bundeswehr, this particular one, you may be able to notice on the side of the turret, there's a maple leaf. That's because it's served with the Canadian forces. And Canada, in the early 2000s, decided tanks were old hat, we don't need them anymore, and went to get rid of them. We put our hand up and said, can we have a couple please? And they really kindly gave us 2 of their Leopard tanks. This is one of them. Then Canada went off to fight in Afghanistan and very quickly realised they dropped a big one and went back to Germany and bought more Leopard tanks and put them into service. Just like the Netherlands have, they got rid of their tanks and now they're hiring Leopard tanks again, back off and training. So the original design of the Leopard, the armour protection on the front was supposed to be proof against 20mm, about cannon fire. Don't worry about that, chaps. We're going to make you so fast on the battlefield. We're going to give you a thumping great MTU diesel engine. That's what we're going to hear rumbling away there. We're going to make you so quick the enemy won't be able to keep up with you to knock you out. That was the argument with the Leopard. Complete opposite World War II and the Tiger. The Tiger has a powerful gun, so does the Leopard, but it has very thick armour and perhaps some might argue not great mobility. The Leopard has gone for that powerful gun, but great mobility, don't worry about the arm. That was the idea. And the Leopard really, their design was very successful because they kept up the mobility, but also added armour over time. They tend to take them back to the factory, rebuild them, and again, these would be ready for wartime use, and off they go. You can see on the back of this T-72 what looks like a tube on the back of the turret. That's a snorkel, because the Russians realised that NATO would blow up all the bridges over the Rhine, the Navy Rhine, the Wau, all the rivers that go north into the North Sea, the Channel. How are they going to follow the Navy if they went to war? But there was a fight between 2 rival tank factories. T-64 tank had problems with it. The project was cancelled. The Shah of Iran had ordered a tank from Britain. He was deposed, so he took over that project. And that project becomes this tank, Challenger 1. So Challenger 1 has the same 120mm gun that was really on the Chieftain. It's got a new engine, more reliable diesel engine in the back than the famous L60 on the Chieftain, which wasn't very good. But the great leap forward on this tank is the armour. This is this new thing called chopper armour. still officially top secret. It's a laminate armour. We can tell you everything that's in there, but then we have to kill you afterwards, so I better not do that. But it's a secret mix of different laminates that go together, they can't blend it, and that's why so many modern tanks have this faceted shape. What you're looking at on the outside is a skin that goes over that secret armour packs that are underneath it. So from Britain, this was almost like an emergency stopgap measure tank. It took over half the Bovington fleet, but then it sees action in the First Gulf War. And much to everyone's surprise at the time, it didn't do badly. In fact, it's got the still holds a record for the longest tank-on-tank hit
and so on. And what they do is they put a starting handle into the rear of the tank, which drives the chain, which drives the shaft, which then turns the starter. And then they have to press the back button to engage the starter. We get about 6 turns of the engine, and hopefully the fire, if it doesn't, we'll try the whole system again. Most of the German tanks were fitted with this auxiliary way of starting the engine. And British tanks weren't for some reason. They probably had much better starter motors than the Germans. Because it is a very,
every time you start up a new component, so it's up and delete itself.
It's too good for its own good, really. And if the batteries aren't completely fully charged, starters burn out really easy. So the second one on Tiger, second one I think on Panzer III as well. So you have to be really careful with the electric starters. It's a big engine and a very small electric starter. So we've got the handle in now, and Dave and Stephen are now going to start the motions in turning it. It starts off really slowly to start with, and then it has to gain speed. I'll check with the driver to make sure the ignition's on. This is not for the faint-hearted, I'm assure you. Try that. Brilliant. Right, John Morgan said most of the German tank crews were fairly small men, so you did have a little bit of extra effort from them, I think. Anyway, that's better, David. Thank you.